everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Vulnerability Time. I am your host and published author, Josias Abriel. How are y'all doing today, folks? Shout out to Saudi Arabia. That is another country that the podcast is now heard in. Shout out to Saudi Arabia. Uh, Folks, so this is a bonus episode. I'm gonna try to keep this short, but you know how that goes. Y'all know I talk a lot, which is an insecurity that I'm starting to, love myself more and more for. I remember talking in previous episodes in the past saying how my biggest insecurity is talking too much, or what I define as too much, or what others define as too much. Just talking a lot, um, and that being like one of the biggest insecurities, um, because talking a lot because I have autism. You know what I mean? Like I'm autistic. So, fun fact. But y'all knew that already. But yeah, so I'm just gonna try to make this short. But to update on that, before I get into the topic, to update on that, I hate myself less when I do that. When I talk a lot, I hate myself less, or I hate it less, or do I hate myself and it less? I hate myself less and I hate it less. All at once, yeah, because there's definitely some not love going on in that arena. But things are a lot better now. Wow, jeez. So something I wanted to talk about today is um grieving. When you're okay, so I will just speak for me, and maybe you can relate to this, or maybe you can get something from this. I don't know. Or maybe you just need, some background noise in the background. Um, but grieving. I'm coming to this question, or I am at this question. How about that? I'm at this question where it's just like, okay, how do I grieve a loss that can never be replaced? How do I grieve that? For me, sometimes I have grieved and it ended in a point. Like it had an end. It had an end date. I grieved as long as I needed to, and then it had an end date. But there are some things where I'm grieving, but there's no point. It's a process. I'm grieving, there's no end, there is only process. With process comes progress. With process comes pain. Which with process comes triumph. It comes learning new things. There's a lot that comes in the process. And so I want to start off with that. That may not make sense to some, and that's okay. But to the ones that it does make sense, you know, you get me. I'm trying to find the words to better explain. Now, if this doesn't make sense to you, honestly, stay tuned because, I don't know, you might learn something new, or you might need this for in the future. So, currently in the grieving process, I have just recently accepted the fact that I am currently in the grieving process when there is no point at the end. It is only just process. There is no end. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in the most neutral way as possible. I mean, I just, it comes with with it all, the good, the bad, the in between. Um, it just sucks because I feel like what I'm grieving the loss of parents, right? Not saying that they are dead, but saying that they choose to be dead from my life. And so I'm grieving that. I've been grieving that for years. I didn't realize that I was grieving that growing up until I, came to therapy and shit like that and learned, wow, this is what I'm feeling. This is these emotions. This is what's coming from. This is what this has done to my heart. This is what this hasn't done to my heart. Like, just figuring things out. I realize I've been on a lifelong journey of grieving the loss of parents, something that I cannot get back. And to be honest, between me and you, I don't want them back. Those two parents, I don't want them. Mm-mm. No. God, I would choose grieving their loss over having them in my life any day. To those who have followed the show from season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you've heard about my parents. Now, I am also at a point, not, I don't want to say the word point. I'm also at a place right now, again, where I had to remind myself, the glass is half empty and half full. Two things can be true at the same time. Yes, there is a lot that you have gained, but there is also a lot that you have lost, Josias, and that is okay to recognize that. Do not invalidate yourself. Yes, you've been spending all day crying your eyes out. Crying your eyes out. You ever cried so much, folks, to where you can feel the tear stains? That was me today, and that's probably going to be me tomorrow, if I'm being honest with you. So, a little bit of backstory. What triggered this was I had a nightmare, two nightmares, but I hadn't had nightmares in years. And it's correlated to the abuse that I experienced. Now, the first nightmare, this was completely symbolic. So I was in the shower, and this is vulnerability time, so we get honest and vulnerable here. So I was in the shower, and this is in the nightmare. I was in the shower, you know, clothes off, fully naked. I don't know anyone that showers fully clothed, but I shower naked. Okay. And so, me being naked in the shower, okay, what that is symbolic of? Well, let me just tell you the full nightmare and then I'll tell you the symbolism. And I'm just, minding my business in the shower, feeling safe and secure and just vulnerable. Um, and then I see a flash from a camera, and it is by an individual who somehow snuck in the bathroom, opened the curtains, and took a picture of me. And my back was turned, so I didn't hear this. The water was running, so I didn't hear this. All my defenses were down, because I was in a place where I didn't need to have defenses up. You know, um, I'm in the shower. So my back was turned. I wasn't, you know, scoping the scenes out. You don't expect someone to come in the shower, and take a picture of you. You just don't. And then they had a smirk on their face, and then they ran out and they left. And the door was closed when they left. Of course, they closed it, and I think the door was locked. I don't remember. Yes, the door was locked, I believe. I'm 99% sure the door was locked. Um, and I just remember calling the police and telling them, hey, this person harassed me. I want to file charges, this, and that. And the operator was, saying, oh, well, we can't do nothing about it. And they sounded like they didn't care. I woke up from that nightmare after I started like yelling at the operator and getting my Karen on saying, I want to press charges. Let me speak to your man like, let me speak to your manager. Like before I started doing that, I woke up from the nightmare, but I was getting heated, like I was getting loud in the dream. I remember that with the operator. And I woke up and I fell out of my bed. Um I fell, and so that's how I woke up, is I literally physically fell and I was on the ground when I woke up. Now let me tell you the symbolism in that dream. So the symbolism is the robbing and the taking of my trust. I was in a vulnerable moment, and security and trust was taken from me, and I could not get it back. What does that sound like? When I was a child and I was sexually abused, molested. The person in the nightmare that took the photo was the same male, the same man that first molested me. Well, he was the second man to molest me. Um, so the symbolism is, I was naked in the shower. You know, I just felt secure. I didn't realize trust was ripped. I didn't realize I was trusting until the trust was ripped from me. And so the shower and the wet water that represents vulnerability. I'm in a vulnerable state. The camera flash is symbolic to memory. When you take a photo of something, you're capturing the memory. You're capturing a moment. And so that camera flash was symbolic from the person taking the photo. They are symbolic for taking from me. They took a photo, but they didn't just take a photo. They took my security with it. And that memory, the camera was a symbolic of memory in my mind, a memory, probably in that individual's mind too. Them running out the door and locking it is symbolic to them getting away with it. They got away. Me calling the authorities, calling the 911 was symbolic of um, speaking up to an authority figure, a trusted authority figure to try to get help. That is symbolic of my mother. The tone of the operator was they didn't care. They didn't want to care. They didn't try to care. That's symbolic to my mother's response. So that nightmare happened. And it just set the tone for the week. It's just been a rough week for me. Yeah, and it just came out of nowhere. Um, and it just really triggered a lot, you know? Um, I do have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I have been diagnosed. We know this. So of course this happened. It just hadn't happened in so long, like so long. So, ugh, I'm about to cry, and that is okay. It is okay to cry. Um, it just triggered a lot. And so today, after crying a lot, today I, reminded myself, yes, there's a lot of great things that you have. You are currently living your dream. You're getting your PhD. You have a good job. You have a job that you love. You're able to take yourself on vacation. You're able to do all this great stuff, whatever, you know. Um, However, there's been a lot gained, but there's also been a lot lost. Let's validate the loss. Do not pretend that it's not there. Do not try to toxic positivity your way through it. No, no, no. If your body is bringing this up to you, Josias, it's for a reason. Grieve it. Feel it. You're supposed to feel it. When your body is trying to purge out things, it's because it's not good to keep in your body. Like vomit. Like when you gotta take a shit. When you gotta pee. If you keep that stuff in, it's gonna damage your body. You gotta get it out, right? Same with emotions. Same with tears. Though we can't physically see the damage that it does immediately, uh, do some brain scans or build a time machine and go look 10 years from now, you will see damage. See, that's the thing about a lot of like trauma. is its manifestations are not always, immediately physical. If they are physical, a lot of them are hidden, and it's a slow roast. It's a build up over time. You keep playing with it, you keep not crying, you keep shoving things down. Oh, over time your body, it's gonna get it out, and it's just gonna manifest in different ways. Some people, it manifests in alcoholism, it manifests in drug use, it manifests in sex addiction, it manifests in so many things. That's why it's important to get things out. And I, you know did not want to get it out this time. I just didn't, but I knew I had to, because I saw it was like breaking me. So I was like, we hadn't had a nightmare in so long. We didn't even know how to like go about it anymore. And so, yeah. So it's like, Josias, you got to face this. But I also started to have shame a little bit. So I had to remind myself, guess what? Yeah, you can be living your dream and still be a human being that goes through things, because why? You're a human fucking being. Like, you're a human being. It is okay to be a human being if you're a human being. Human beings come with emotions, even though we try to like deny them and suppress them. Like, no, that's not how the brain and the body works. We gotta stop that toxic way of doing things. Like, you gotta listen to your body. Your body is trying to tell you something. Your body is loving you enough, doing you a favor enough to tell you, hey, I'm hurting. Let's grieve. Let's grieve. Please don't hold it in. Please, let's grieve. Because I can see that if you hold this in, it's going to do you more damage. So the body is just like, so get it out. Get it out now. Try your best. You know, um, So it's your body loving you. Your body is loving you. We just don't recognize it as that. And that's fair. That's valid, Because shit hurts sometimes. Um, but yeah, so I'm just like, you know what, Josias? The glass is half empty and half full. You acknowledge that the glass is half empty by being aware that it's half full. You acknowledge the glass is half full by being aware that it's half empty. you know and then on top of that, who said we have to judge the glass? Why can't it be both? What if it's supposed to be both in that moment? What if it's not always supposed to be filled up? What if it's not always supposed to be empty? What if it's supposed to be fully empty for 3 years and filled up for 4 years? What if it's supposed to be 75% full, 25% empty? What if it's supposed to be like that in this season of my life? Can I not love the glass for just being available to hold whatever is there? Why judge the glass? Why can't it just be a glass? You know? Why can't it just be a human being that is going to look different sometimes? I don't know. I mean, I do know, because I was raised in toxic positivity. And I like conditioned myself and was conditioned as well. And so now, like, I'm still breaking that conditioning, obviously. But I guess a word of encouragement is, don't be hard on yourself. Um, yes, you can have the man of your dreams and still cry because you're upset at something that happened at your job. Yes, you can be grateful for your job and still be upset that something happened. You can be in the best loving relationship but still have an argument. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. Validate your emotions, validate what you're going through, validate that the glass is both half empty and half full. Both are important, both are necessary. We got to acknowledge the pain in order to see the purpose, you know? And, and hey, If the glass is half empty, that means that there's things that can be poured into it. You know, if the glass is full, there's nothing that can be poured into it. No new opportunities that can be poured into it. So it hurts when the glass is half empty or 75% empty. Hey, that just means that there's so much room for new blessings, amazement, excitement to be poured into it. There's just it's let's try, and I'm telling myself this, let's try to shift our focus to recognizing that, hey, I can be grateful for something and still be like in pain. I can be happy and sad at the same time. Those two emotions, they aren't exclusive to one another. They are very inclusive. You can be happy and sad at the same time. Multiple things can be true at once. I know we've grown up in societies that tell us, like, oh, it's only one way, it's only this way. That's a very capitalist society that's coming from. That's a mindset of a society that says, oh, there's only this way and there's only that way. For example, let me get on my soapbox for a little bit. Y'all know how they say there's only two genders? First of all, there's a difference between gender and sex. Second of all, there's not only male, female. There are people that are born with both reproductive sets. There are people that are born with different chromosomes that don't fit male, female. But we're not taught that. We're just taught this narrow way of thinking, and we're not taught, we're not even taught, hey, there are people. What about those people that are born with both sets or don't have the chromosomes to fit male and female? You know what I mean? And then also, I learned that, and this is why I love my PhD program. I learned, and I knew this was true, but I learned that throughout all of history, there was never only two genders. There were multiple genders. Now, modern time just decides not to talk about it. They just decide, oh, we're not going to talk about that. That doesn't exist. We're not going to talk about that in history. We're going to keep that out. We're going to take that out of religious text. You know how many people who identify as different genders or were transgender have been taken out of religious texts? Let me get my phone. Let me get my receipts real quick so I can tell you some of the genders. 1 second. All right. All right. So here are just a few of the many genders that were predominant, that were prominent throughout all of history. I'm not saying that word right. I've never been able to say that word right. So instead of saying predominant or prominent, I just say both words. I'm like, you get the point. Yeah, like I've never been able to say those words right. I just don't. I don't know what it is. Um so here. So these are just a few of the many genders that human history went by, and it was normal. It was normal. It wasn't shamed. It wasn't frowned upon. Our westernized societies are the ones that decided to be like, okay, we're gonna rewrite history. Uh, no, no, because you're rewriting history and it's just putting judgment and shame on people, and we don't need that. We need freedom, love, and acceptance. So here are some of the other genders that were throughout majority of history. It wasn't just he, him. It was two-spirit. It was Fafafine. It was Hydra. It was the Bisus. It was the Muxus. It was the Sekratas. It was the Koramri. Let me tell you something, folks. I'm not saying any of these words right. I am not pronouncing them right, but those are them, and those are just a few. Those are just a few. This is throughout all of history. All of history. So who's really right? You know what I mean? If this is throughout all of history, who's really right? Or maybe no one's right or wrong. Maybe gender is just a man-made construct. And if you do look up the definition of gender, it is a man-made construct. And that's literally what it says. It says it is a societal construct. But the point of the matter is getting off that soapbox. Um, Getting off that soapbox is two things can be true at once. It doesn't have to be just one set way. You know, it just doesn't. It can be true at once. You can be so grateful that you're living your dream, and you can be so sad at something. You could be happy and still be depressed. That does exist. That does exist. Depression is kind of like a spectrum. It's on a spectrum. Okay, I'm not talking sadness. Sadness and depression are different, but it's on a spectrum. And by, for example, how it's shown up in my life is I could there could be a circumstance that makes me happy, but I'm still depressed. But the happiness ends up leaving. But the fact that it was still present enough to make me smile, a genuine smile, a genuine laugh. So it does exist. It's complex, and it's not meant to be simple. Maybe it's not meant to be oversimplified. Maybe it's complex because human beings, we are complex creatures. If we do research on our brains and how the body works, it is way too complex. It is way too complex. And maybe that's how things have always been. Maybe we just were taught in societies that say, oh no, this is only one way and that's only that way because I say that without any scientific evidence. But let me be quiet. Let me be quiet. That's none of my business. It's all of my business, actually. But yeah, so let me get on my soapbox. But and by scientific evidence, let me just clear that up real quick. When it comes to like sex, they say male and female. That's science. That's biology. I was like, oh well, that's not all though. That's not all. What about the folks that are born with a penis and a vagina? What about the folks that are born with different chromosomes? It's a whole, there is a spectrum. There's like four other things or three other things that don't fit the sex of male and female. So it's a spectrum. But we don't talk about those people, and we shut them out, and that's not fair. Um, and I'm just like, I think I need a time machine, because it seems like there was once upon a time where there was a lot of, in certain societies, there was freedom and love and acceptance. Not all, but it sounds like once upon a time in many societies there was freedom, love, and acceptance. Um, and it's funny because I didn't learn about these societies growing up. It took me doing my own research, and I mean hardcore research, and it took me entering a master's and a PhD program to learn this. And I think it's very strategic that this is not taught growing up when school is free. This stuff is only taught when you have to pay thousands for school. Isn't that interesting? That is a deterrent factor because not everyone has thousands to pay. Not everyone is able to take out loans. So it is a great deterrent factor to keep this information from people. But this is not the first time history has been rewritten. This won't be the last. Um, and the reason why I say that is because this all makes sense. I promise I'm not just going off on a tangent. Is that things are complex. They're not always a simplified, narrow one way or the other. So when you are, folks, when you are viewing yourselves, when you are viewing your emotions, please give yourself the grace to be complex. Do not oversimplify yourself. It is okay that you are grateful and sad at the same time. Do not beat yourself up. It's okay that you are grateful, sad, happy, upset, all at the same time, all of the complex things. Give yourself the grace. There is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. You are simply a human being. Do not limit yourself. I know society has put you in a limit. It's time to try to break those. You are beautiful. worthy, valuable, complex at the same time. And who said that's a bad thing? No, seriously, who? Who? Figure out who. Who first said it to you? Who? Who? Because I promise you, they were not right. They were wrong. They are not a scientific fact. They probably, the folks that told you you're broken or something, they're coming from a background where they don't have scientific fact to back that up. That is merely their opinion, and their opinion hurt. It hurt, and it stuck with us. It stuck with us. And you're not a bad person. You're not. I want to say this. Let me say this. Just because you are in pieces does not mean you are broken. Let's build with those pieces. Just because just because you are in pieces does not mean you are broken. Now, what can we build with those pieces? What can we build? How can we turn the impossible into I'm possible? I tell you what, it involves acknowledging the complexities. Not everything is simplified, but I just want to offer that word of encouragement to somebody out there listening is just because you are in pieces does not mean you are broken. What can you build with those pieces? What have you already built with those pieces? Me currently, I am learning how to turn my broken heart into pieces of art. Yes, that is a line from my poem, but it's true. Um, I've gotten back into writing poetry, but that's true. And the last thing is that I learned that the cure to my pain oftentimes was found deeper inside the pain. Hashtag facing it, acknowledging it, the complexities of it, wrestling with myself. Oh, I'm gonna face it. No, I don't want to face it. Oh, but I have to face it. But it hurts. Can I give up? Do I quit? What do I do? Do I self sabotage? All of it. Done it all. Do it all. Validate it all. That's what I have done. It was all part of my growth journey. Um, I've just done it all. And, but I guess I'll end it on that note is that I'm currently grieving the loss of something that I never had, something that I will never get in this lifetime. Um, because of that, grief is now a process. It's the extent of what was lost, the extent of what was never had. It's so funny how you can grieve something that wasn't yours to begin with. You know, because of the extent, the weight of that loss, the weight of that emptiness, my grief is a process. There will not be a point to it. I can have $1 billion. I can have the man of my dreams. However, nothing can fill that parent hole in the heart, and that's valid. That's valid. You know. So, but I tell you what, I was in a lot of pieces, still am in a lot of pieces, but I built a lot of monuments with those pieces. So, the glass is half empty and half full in that area. With that being said, this has been another episode of Vulnerability Time. Stay tuned for next episode. We got a couple more episodes to go. This will be a shorter season. Um, and I can't wait for next episode for whatever. that will be. I'm excited for our guest. I'm not going to spoil anything, but let's just say I'm very excited for our guest. Okay, this has been another episode of Vulnerability Time. Remember, folks, to go purchase my books. Link is in the episode description below. Bye.